story. There's a story of the master carpenter's tool, and they're holding a meeting. Sister Hammer is presiding over the meeting. Some suggest that she's not a good leader and she needs to leave because she's too noisy. Sister Hammer replies, if I have to lead this meeting, Sister Crew also must leave. Sister Screw must also go. You have to turn her around again and again and again to get her to accomplish anything. To that, Sister Screw replies, if you wish, I would leave, but Brother Plain must leave too. All of his work is on the surface. His efforts have absolutely no depth. Brother Plain responds, if that is the case, Sister Rule will also have to withdraw, for she is always measuring people as though she is the only one who's ever right. Sister Rule then complains about Brother Sandpaper. He ought to leave too, because he is so rough and he's always rubbing people the wrong way. In the midst of all of this discord and confusion, walks in the carpenter of Nazareth. He has arrived to start his day's work. Putting on his apron, he goes to the bench to make a pulpit from which to proclaim the gospel. He uses Sister Hammer, Sister Screw, Brother Plain, Sister Rule, Brother Sandpaper, and all of the other tools.
Listen to what Will
After the day's work, when everything is finished, Sister Rule arises and says,
why is it not have?
Sister Rule arises and says, brothers and sisters, I have observed that all sense of the story is this, and it's summed up in an old African proverb that says, I am because we are therefore I am. Our lives are intricately intertwined, and everything that we each do matters. Everything that we each do has a purpose. And so basically working together works. And we have to appreciate what each and every part of the body, what each and every part does, because all parts are necessary to get the work done. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, so you all are speaking this morning again. So if only Sharon and Reverend Estell would unmute, that would be fabulous. And then how do you want people to do questions? Do you want it in the chat, or do you want to just wait till the end and let people unmute?
Pastor, how do you prefer?
I'm good either, however we do it, Sharon.
Okay. So Lori, I'm thinking that it's probably a little more fluid if people, either way they choose, if they put them in chat, between the two of us, maybe we can monitor those questions. Jasmine is on as well. We're going to introduce her later. But Pastor, I'm going to let you go first because you're traveling.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll let you go first and I will go second. When we were asked to participate on this morning, we weren't giving a specific topic. And so we haven't even had time to come up with a tag team kind of thing, but I just choose to believe that God is in it this morning and that he is going to have it all work together and come out just fine. So Pastor, however the Lord leads you to begin, you just go right ahead and I'll jump in a little later.
Okay, so it is about the ministry of the work of Blount County United. And so I really wanted to go back and kind of give our beginning, our origins, and why we exist and the work that we continue to do. We began in 2014 actually in December of 2014, with a call to prayer. This was after the death of Trayvon Martin and so many other young African American males by police officers. And so I got a call from, as many of you might not know, but I'm also the presiding elder of the Maryville district, which means I kind of oversee other churches as well. And I got a call from one of our pastors that said, you know, what are we going to do? I believe that we need to do something, even though certain things aren't happening here. We do need to do something as the church. And so it's kind of like that holy discontent that we talk about, that when you see things going on that you know, that we have an obligation, or believe that we have an obligation to act on it. And so we called a prayer meeting in December 2014. And a lot of people came out because everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people had the same kind of holy discontent that something's going on and we need to be able to do something about it. And so after that prayer meeting, we knew that we had to do more than pray, that holy discontent says that we have to put legs and feet and things to the things that we are discontent about, things that we are not satisfied with. And so then in January of 2015, we met. And in that meeting, we formed 4 committees that we thought would have an overall impact on the community. And at that time, the committees were the faith community, the civic community, the education committee, and also our youth committee. Out of our youth committee, we formed an alliance with the police department, and we had our first police academy, trying to show our young people that they did not really have to be afraid of the police, show them, actually trying to build relationships with our officers. So that's basically what that was about. The civic committee, Sharon will talk more about that. But the faith committee was built in order to, or developed in order to have relationships with other churches in the community, understanding that we had a greater call. What would Jesus do? What would Jesus have us to do as faith communities, and actually kind of determining what it is that we believe. You know, how does our faith speak to us in everyday language? How do we put our faith into action? Again, and then the education committee at that time, Dr. Francis Louis and Janet McCullough were coordinating that together. Part of that committee was about education. You know, it's still about education. What is about education? You know, the word says, the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. We believe that there were people that were just ignorant. And when I use the word ignorant, I'm not using it in a negative tone, but the reality is that ignorance means basically lack of knowledge. You know, lack of knowledge, people believing that certain things couldn't happen in our community, people believing that there was no racism in this community at all. And so if you don't believe that something exists, then you don't believe that you have an obligation or responsibility to do anything about it. And so part of the education committee's response was to bring about awareness. The faith committee, you know, helping us to live out our faith and what it is that we believe about humanity, what we believe about humanity as a whole. And so, you know, through the years since 2015, we have held rallies, we've held prayer walks, all that deals with racism, all that deals with injustice. We've done a lot of things and you know, trying to make people aware and trying to help people to understand that it is a real issue. And as I said when I did the talk on, it was really about all of us working together, that all of us really do need to work together to bring about what Martin Luther King and others have termed as this beloved community. And so Blount County United really is about working towards this community where everyone is treated fairly, equally. Everyone is valued in the sight of Almighty God and ought to be valued in our sight as well. Today, though, in 2022, we have combined the Faith Committee and the Education Committee to work together. The Civic Committee is now, and Sharon will talk more about that, in the work that they're doing is now working with our young people, hopefully to restart our the police academy. But we just continue to do, we continue to do the work to bring awareness. We continue to do the work. So much of it is about prevention. Just because certain things have not happened doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. And we would rather try to prevent something from happening instead of getting into it and wondering, how come we didn't see this coming? And so it's a great work. Our mission is a great work. And I'm grateful that after all these years that we continue to stand. We are now a 501c3 corporation. And so we're grateful for the work that we have done, that we continue to do. And you'll hear more about our race relations symposium. You'll hear more about that a little bit later. But Sharon, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you pick up and fill in and all the other things you desire to do.
Thank you so much, Pastor. And I think it's going to work out just fine because mine is always, Pastor says I'm always in teaching mode, and I would have to confess that it's probably true. 99% of the time I am in teaching mode in some fashion or other. So as she took us down our trip down memory lane, how we got started, why we got started, when we got started, I was sitting here thinking, because when Reverend Dr. Estell came to us 20 years ago, she came and the mission of our church becoming a beloved community. That is our mission. That is our mandate. All of our ministries, really speak toward that. We really wish that we could have a greater presence even in the whole work of becoming a beloved community. But with Blount County United, we do believe in being proactive rather than reactive. Being reactive is usually out of emotionalism and not out of any real thought, any real awareness, and any real planning. And so if you really think about where Blount County is today, it is so very true. We're not where other communities are, but we still have issues of racism. We still have issues of social injustices. Ta-da, all of you in the gallery. And so, we're talking about the work of Dr. King, in the 60s. In 2022, we haven't moved from civil rights. We got a civil rights bill, and we're still resting on that as though that's all the work we needed to do or ever will need to do. So when do we move from civil rights to human rights? When do we really move from that into actually doing and being, what we really need to do and to be, and to put all of those things to grow it. It wasn't meant to be one little stagnated document that there's a check mark by it, but it's a work that can and should continue always. And so what I want to talk about a little bit is not only what the Civic Committee has done, but what we're looking to do, because I think it's given me new energy, I'll put it that way, to be able to incorporate our young people into some of the work that we've already done, and then taking that to the next level. Dr. Estell talked about the Youth Police Academy, and it was awesome. It was a great thing to behold. But in its concept paper now, it hasn't come to fruition, but we're excited about it. We, the team members of the Civic Subcommittee, what we hope to be able to do is to not only reestablish that police academy, but take it to the next level. Our local police agencies or law enforcement agencies have been looking and trying hard to recruit and hire minorities and women, people of color, and women onto the force. Unfortunately, the law enforcement agencies don't have the same good reputation that they used to. So what happens outside our community can bleed over into the community, and people have a conception or an idea, a notion, or a belief that all police officers are bad and that all police agencies are corrupt. So it has become difficult to hire and retain good people. The other thing is we hope, all three of our school agencies, by the way, our school systems have criminal justice programs. And so we hope to be able to garner a partnership with our schools and take our police academy, like I say, to another level. So we'll talk more about it as we begin to really strategize about how to make that happen. But since our agencies locally, and I don't know whether it's the same other places, but locally, county can hire into the police force those who are 18 years old. Well, to me, part of our issues, if that is a national kind of process, what 18-year-old do we know that you really want to put that kind of responsibility on and give them weapons? So also to our thought process that some of the training that officers go through is more militaristic style of training. And so it's more combative. And so we're hoping to be able to help foster some training and policy reform. And thirdly, we're hoping to include our school systems and have an interaction with those students who would like to have or be a part of, or even hope to have a career path in law enforcement, whether it be at a local level or whether it be higher up, working for the FBI or some of that we can use this as a mechanism for furthering the police academy, that it's not just a one and done, but that it can grow into something a whole lot more than that. So I'm looking forward to being able to work on that with others and looking forward to see where that may come, how it can evolve and how it can grow. But how much time do we have? Who's keeping time? We have another 10 minutes, baby. Lori? Okay. People often ask, Reverend Estell gets asked, I get asked, what can we do? Well, I have come to say now that, what do you want to do? What do you think your part is or can be in the work of social justice? What do you really want to do? Because there is no one size fits all. There is no one style fits all. So if you have any desire whatsoever, and obviously all of you do, or you wouldn't be a member of the Blount County Ecumenical Action Agency or any other agency that deals with social justice concerns. So I now have a few points, that I like to give to people. So first of all, be you, out of your gifts, your talents, and then take that into justice. So for all of you are either at home or, except for Reverend Estell, she's in the car, but she's got a real sharp mind. She can follow right along. If everybody would, and I'd appreciate it if you're able to let me see your face while we do this, because there are a few things that I think all of us can do working together to help overcome not only racial divides, but overcome some of the social justice issues that plague us and that we have a heart to do something about. And we're going to use just the word itself, justice. So grab you a pen, piece of paper, and in acrostic style, straight down, or however you want to write it, just write justice in all caps. Justice, that one word. And beside it, I'm just going to offer a couple of things for all of us to consider as individuals and all of us to consider as members of the Blount County Ecumenical Action Council. We want to be about action. And so there are ways for us to do it without getting outside of our comfort zone. So by J, just write 2 words: judge not. We live in such a judgmental world. People make assumptions about things that they know absolutely nothing about. They judge other people based on what they think they know, based on what they think they see, and they don't really have a clue. And that's something that all of us need to be practicing anyway as individuals, as leaders within our organizations. Do not judge. Now, if there's something that is burning inside you, we need to do more research. We need to do more talking. We need to do more of a lot of things, but judging needs to come out of the equation. There's all kinds of things that happen when you judge. First of all, that's not our role. That's not our responsibility. And secondly, often we judge incorrectly because we don't have all the facts. We've got to start gathering some facts and then assessing how we as individuals, we as families, we as organizations can then enhance or partner with or collaborate with and be proactive about some things rather than just making judgments. You understand the problem. Sometimes we'll take off in one direction and then we're all over the place because we haven't come together about what the problem really is. What's the issue? What is it we're coming together about? What is it we're going to do? We need to understand the problem. And if y'all want me to, because you'll know it's not just me saying it, it's all biblical. This is a faith community. It's all biblical. For our judge not, take a look at Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. For understand the problem, what didn't used to be one of my favorite books, but Proverbs, now that I'm a G-mama, has become one of my favorite books because all those teachings, Pastor, that we need to be passing along to our children and our grandchildren speak to me a little bit differently now. So understand the problem. Check out Proverbs chapter 3, verse 13. The problem with racial divides is racism. And so while we have social justice issues, we have a lot of other issues. You have to first decide which issue, which ism are we talking about? So if it's racism that we're talking about, let's call it what it is. Let's research what that is and decide what we can do as individuals, as organizations, and as entities in this thing called racism. Understand the problem. And then for S, J-U-S, silently lament. And for every pastor in the gallery today, I think you all know what I mean by silently lament. Blount County United, Pastor told you, we came to be because of a prayer vigil, because of a prayer meeting. We need to do more praying. We need to have our hearts torn over some of the injustices that we see. If we can look at all of the injustice in the world today, poverty, racism, sexism, human trafficking, you go on and on and on, and nothing breaks your heart, we need to go into our secret closets and talk to God about our own personal condition. If our hearts are not broken over some of the things that we see and experience every day, then we need to take a look at what it is that we need to do for ourselves. People are hurting. They're hurting everywhere. And we can't just push past that. We can't just scratch the surface. We can't just do that. So don't judge, understand the problem, Silently lament. Let something break your heart. Take it to God and then decide what you yourself can do. If we do nothing, we're part of the problem. Then T, trust God and trust him more than we trust ourselves. His knowledge and his wisdom more than we trust our own. So if we are not judging, if we understand the problem, if we understand that people are hurting and we care and we want to do something about hurting people, and if we trust God, then we can kind of come to a better conclusion about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it. I involve others. None of us can do this work by ourselves. My pastor preached a sermon a while back, and a few words that came from that has stuck with me and stuck with me. It is too big for us. If we could have fixed it as any individual, it would be fixed by now. We would be in a beloved community. We wouldn't be rushing past hurting people. It's too big for us, but we serve a big God. And then C, church. I think we as churches, and it's not judgmental, I'm not judging, but I think our churches have forgotten that we as a collective, unified body was God's plan for this world. So I don't believe that out of all these churches, there's a church on every other corner, and on some corners, there's one on all four corners. With all these churches in our community, how is it that we cannot identify together something that you already have a heart to do, something that's already your mission and mandate to do? We got to stop living in gated communities. Our doors are more closed than they are open. And that's not a judgment, that's an assessment. That's kind of an assessment. And then finally, E, engage. Our churches need to motivate and mobilize our own people. And we got to quit hiding behind the fact that we don't have a lot of people in our church gated communities. If you got two, you and two others decide what your high priority is, and then decide what it is that you can do, and then mobilize and do that. But we already said that we can that we can partner with other people who have a like mission and a like mandate. There is no excuse. We are without excuse to still be stuck with just a civil rights bill and no human rights that have really followed. Maybe we don't understand the difference between civil rights and human rights. I don't know. And I didn't mean to really preach. I did want to just give those 7 points of things that we can do as individuals and as churches and as social justice organizations. The work you're doing is great. How do you expand it? How do you take it to the next level? How do any of us do that? How do we promote the work that other people are doing? I really loved your bread and justice, Reverend Estell. You know, that was right on point. Not just for today, but for that is people, and it was right on point. And so we are God's plan, and Blount County United does want to be a part of the plan, proactively, not reactively, and not trying to fire all the other workers, but trying to pull together using every tool in the toolbox to make the best impact that we can. I think we were primarily invited this month because it's Black History Month. How about we take a look at every month as though it were Black History Month? That might help. Not segregated to February's Black History Month and March is Women's Rights Month. How about we do those things every month in whatever ways that we can, with whoever has a like mind to help us to do those. And so I didn't see anything pop up in the chat yet. So does anyone have any questions of Reverend Estell or myself?
Sharon, before that, I do want to say that part of our desires is, Blount County, the Ecumenical Action Group is basically a faith-based organization. But I think part of what we each have to come to terms with is, what is it that we believe about life? What is it that we believe about humanity and the value of life? I know when we talk about abortions, we talk about that life and that value and what that means, and that God gave life. But what happens to life? What happens to our core value when that life is born and that life has no food to eat or no place to stay, or that life is being mistreated and abused? And so I think that for us, it is coming to our own terms, not what our denomination says about certain things, but what is our core belief when it comes to the dignity and worth and the value of human life, and how do we live that out? How do we live our faith out in everyday life? And I think that when we get that we'll see a change. We'll see a change in our churches. We'll see a change in how we preach and what we teach. What is our core value? What does Jesus say about the value and the worth of life? And I think it will guide us. It will guide us in the things that we are part of. It will guide us in our fight against injustice. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pastor, we have some questions now, and they're good questions. I'm excited about the questions. Father Pete wants to know, he says, thank you very much for a great presentation. His question is, what is the difference between the missions of BCU and NAACP? And so,
Basic. Okay.
go ahead, Pastor.
I think the basic difference is that BCU, and we started this out, so thank you for that question. We started this out with wanting to change hearts, because we understand that you can regulate laws. Sharon mentioned civil rights. We understand that you can regulate laws and do this and do that. There's laws that says you cannot discriminate. There's laws that says a whole lot of things, right? But people find other ways to do it. And so with BCU, our desire was a change of heart. And so it is important that the faith community is heavily involved, because a change of heart brings about transformation. And so we wanted to come at it at in a different light, just trying to bring enlightenment, change of hearts, one person at a time. And the NAACP basically says, if you can't change your heart, then, we can say that there's a certain way that you can't treat me, and so that's when the laws come into effect. It's basically guarding somebody's human rights, their human value, their human dignity, when our heart doesn't line up. And so that's basic. I think if I were to sum it up, that would be the basic difference. The NAACP is about action, is about, pressing into the laws that are already in place, coming up with developing new policies to ensure fairness, to ensure justice. But Blount County United is saying, like, even if you were made to do something, if your heart is not in it, then you'll always revert back. So that's why Sharon mentioned the law. That's why we are where we are today. It's because there has been no real transformation in many areas. You know, there's been new laws and all of that, but there hasn't been any real transformation of the heart. And so that's, you know, I think that's the basic difference.
And I don't think I can add anything else to what Pastor just said, because it is about the heart. It is about collaboration. It is about finding common ground and moving forward. We do have a civil rights bill, but how has it been conscripted over time? How has it been marginalized or weakened or not used at all over time? How has it become a part of the problem to some extent rather than, you know, a real help? Father Pete also wants to know, Pastor, he says, can we talk about, he says he's ignorant about something that is being talked about and legislated about, which is critical race theory, and how can we learn more? Well, before Pastor elaborates, I want to say that Blount County United, in our last meeting, and I'll talk a little bit more about when that is in a minute, when we have our meetings and how you can connect more. Was about critical race theory. And then Pastor's going to tell you a little bit about the presentation, and we wanted to record that, and to, well, it was recorded. We want to be able to publish that and do some other things. So Pastor, you take it from there.
Thank you. And that's going to be a part of our race relations symposium. I think it's in July. That's going to be a big part of it, because again, you know, there is so much uprising about it simply because of lack of knowledge. You know, you have some people that have taken it and ran with it and said it's this or it's that. What it really is and what it boils down to is history. You know, I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me, well, you know, you have both sides. No, you don't have two sides. I'm sorry. You don't have two sides when it comes to history is history.
Mm-hmm.
And so for people to want to negate what has happened in history, what you're basically saying is that you want to take away, you know, my journey. You want to take away what I went through, or you don't want to talk about that part of the history, you know, and history really is, and it really is about, we did a workshop also on facing history. It's about dealing with the reality, not trying to make nobody feel bad or anything like that, but it is history. And so people have just taken it out, you know, and want to leave the good parts, or the parts that's not so bad, or they think that's not so bad. But when you do that, that's like, it's like telling the Jewish people that the Holocaust didn't happen. There's no difference, you know, yet we can talk about that. And so, you know, we are going to do more teaching about it, because again, I think it's lack of knowledge that we allow that, you know, people kind of take it and run with it, or do their own spin on it, because they just don't want certain things talked about. But it really is about the reality. You know, it's about the reality of our history, and being able to face that and deal with that and acknowledge that and move forward.
And our American history, when it was taught, I'm remembering how it was taught when I was still in high school in the ancient of times, Jasmine. But you know, it was taught purely from one perspective and one point of view, and not the whole thing. They talked more about dates than the real context of what actually happened during history. And so it is important to embrace the whole thing. How we expanded across this country, and why we expanded across this country, and how we expanded across this country can speak volumes to some of the issues that we're having today, and how we can't think certain things. And so, you know, we have to have a full understanding of history. It's like taking the Bible and reading it as though it was a novel. That was then and this is now. No, ma'am, no, sir. That is how it was. That is why we are where we are today. And so, you know, the teaching of critical race theory really has to do with just that and how it came about. And that is a historical fact. It's not pretty, but people are trying to make it look as though it didn't happen at all, or is that it is pretty. And so
Or,
that is
or
not.
our and Sharon, and also our place, the place of people of color in history. Our place did not begin on slave ships.
No.
The part that they're trying to, want to edge out and all of that. And so it's really about our, the true history, and people of color has always been a part of that history. And so it's so important that, everybody, like whether you're black, white, blue, whatever, it's important that we know that. Black children need to know that, because that'll give them a better sense of who they are. White children need to know that, because they'll understand that we're all in this thing together, and that every human being matters. And so when we take certain parts out, what we're basically saying is that, one culture doesn't matter as much as the other culture. And Sharon, when you were talking about this month, our history, and I thank God for what's, but our history is to be celebrated all the time. And so, Father, we are going to do a little bit more, because again, it's about so much of it is about awareness and knowledge. And so we are going to be doing more presentations on those.
We are. And Jean Davidson wanted to know how persons who don't know about Blount County United or haven't worked with us can connect. It's real simple. Just give Pastor a call, me a call. We have a new website that is launching prayerfully in the next couple of weeks. And so you'll be able to connect with us through that website. If you have a desire to volunteer with us, membership forms will be on that website. You can become a member, you can become a volunteer, you can become a partner. NAACP and Blount County United, we work together on a number of things, and we'll be planning together the Race Relations Symposium. And so this body has agreed, the planning team of this body has agreed that for July, our focus will be helping support the Race Relations Symposium and what it is doing during the month of July. And so if you would, if anything that Reverend Estell or I have said today resonates with you as an individual, I'm not talking to you now as a BCEAC member, but you as an individual, we're easy to find. Just let us know, what pricked your heart, what didn't. Let us know how you want to be engaged, how much, how little. We can use help from every front, and we solicit your support on every front. Many of you have participated in the faith walks and the prayer walks, but we need work. We need workers. We have to have extra hands. There's only, we're pretty dynamic, but it's too big for us. We can't be everywhere all at the same time. We can't do it all. But if there is any part in the work that these two agencies do, let us know. We'll get you connected.
And I just want to say one other thing about the NAACP. There is misinformation about the NAACP as well. The NAACP will represent all people. It's just, we know how it got started. It got started because of racism. It's not, I had someone say to me, how can you fight hate with hate? We all know that hopefully we all know that that's not true. But I wish that we never needed the NAACP, but we did. But just know that it its mission is really for all people. And it says so in its mission statement, it's for all people.
Any other questions that you have for us today? Pastor, before I relinquish you, before you turn your camera all the way off, you want to say anything about the Freedom Fund Gala on Thursday?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Jenny sent out a flyer, but this year in February, the NAACP is celebrating 113 years as our Founders Day. And we also, that's the day we have a gala, celebrate the NAACP. We give out scholarships. This year, we're going to have 3 people that live in Blount County that we're giving out scholarships to. We present awards for those who have fought for social justice in Blount County. So we're looking forward to a good time. Margie Stewart, many of you may know her, a powerful speaker. I have lived through some things. And so she's going to be our speaker for that evening. Our young people, we have 2 young people that are going to be doing some of the speeches of Frederick Douglass and Sojourner Truth. Trent Gilmore is going to be rendering selections. So we would love for you all to be a part of that. I do think that, I'm not sure if the Zoom link is on the flyer, but if you want that, we can make sure that you get that, and everybody's invited. So thank you.
Okay.
Starts at 6.
Yes. So if that is not included, just let some of us know. And Mavis, she says she has a comment. So Mavis.
Okay, thank you. And it's been a very enlightening presentation. As you're going through the justice initials, another one came to mind for and that might be, integration, which you've been speaking towards. But I just learned about Leah Chase, who worked closely with Martin Luther King Jr., who didn't take no for an answer when she wasn't, her letter wasn't answered by President Johnson. She went to the White House and helped initiate, the Civil Rights Bill becoming law. And she also, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. She also was volunteering on the same task in I guess New Orleans with the grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan in that town. They worked together on something. He went from not really looking at her or speaking to her to every day she talked to him, every day. She just kept talking to him. And by the time they were done, he resigned from the Ku Klux Klan, which I think is just, integrate our own, how many times do we integrate with others who are not in our immediate circle? So, anyway, I just wanted to throw that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mavis, for
for
sharing.
all that you are doing.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for us before we move on to the business of the council? Okay,
I just want to say I am going to have to get off. Thank you all so much for inviting us. We definitely appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you all in the future. So thank you. God bless. Have a absolutely wonderful day.
And you be careful.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Jenny, you can stop recording now. Oh, thank you everyone for your kind comments. And so we're going to move on to